Pam.
I have questions, Jeff, on two Russia-related issues. First is a Russian court has given political activist and Kremlin critic Aleksey Navalny a 3.5-year suspended prison sentence. He was convicted on fraud, and the court at the same time convicted his brother, Oleg, of fraud and sentenced him to serve 3.5 years in jail. So my first question is, what is your reaction to the sentence? And then secondly, does State believe that the court's decision to give his brother the jail time is an attempt to stifle his activism?
Well, we are troubled by the guilty verdict handed down in the latest action against Alexei and Oleg Navalny. The decision is a disturbing development in our view, and it appears to be designed to further punish and deter political activism. This appears to be another example of the Russian government's growing crackdown on independent voices. And we also continue to be concerned about increasing restrictions on independent media, civil society, minority groups, and the political opposition. We believe that the Russian people, like people everywhere, deserve a government that supports an open marketplace of ideas, transparent and accountable governance, equal treatment under the law, and the ability to exercise their rights without fear of retribution.
And what about the second part? Do you think the fact that his brother received the jail sentence is an effort to stifle dissent?
Well, I'm not going to parse the individual sentences, but I would stand by our characterization that we see this as a disturbing development designed to punish and deter political activism.
And Jeff, also, yesterday, of course, the Magnitsky list came out, and there were 4 more Russian individuals added to the list. There's reaction from the Foreign Ministry, which says the U.S. has a double standard on human rights. And the statement also said that while the U.S. is criticizing Russia, it's, quote, closing its eyes to practices such as medieval torture, quote, methods by intelligence services. So what is State's reaction?
Our reaction to what specifically?
Your reaction to what the Russian Foreign Ministry is saying about the U.S. release of the new list in light of what it says are human rights abuses in the United States.
We stand by the Magnitsky law and by our submission to Congress, which was transmitted yesterday, and the reasons for the listings of people. I would remind these 4 names were people determined to have been involved in the detention, abuse, or death of Sergei Magnitsky, or in the criminal conspiracy he uncovered, or people who participated in subsequent cover-up efforts or other gross human rights violations. So, the basis in the law and its connection to Russia's international human rights obligations is pretty clear in our view.
The question is, does the United States have a double standard when it comes to human rights abuses?
Well, no, and I think we would put our record up against anybody, not only in terms of practices, but our addressing problems when they arise.
You just cited abuses that occurred in the detention and treatment of prisoners, and are you saying that the United States does not know of any actions that are similar that have happened by U.S. personnel in the last decade?
Well, I think we've talked about that in this room, as well as more broadly in recent weeks and in recent months, and the U.S. In terms of our commitment to transparency and to addressing problems is unparalleled.
So why not, with the Russians, stick to the same principle of transparency, that you can talk about it, but you don't punish anyone, because you're not punishing any American personnel?
Well, these are totally different
How are they
situations.
totally different? You just mentioned detention and treatment of prisoners. Isn't that the same exact thing we're talking about?
Well, we're talking about a law that's focused on the case of Magnitsky and the targeted actions that flow from it.
Well, let me make this easier. Are you aware of any, or can you name or cite a single example where the United States government has held someone accountable for abuse of prisoners in U.S. custody? Can you identify a prosecution, criminal case?
Well, there clearly have been going back some time, and we can come back with more detail on those. Those were not people these were people who were accused of abuses in detention facilities and were dealt with through military justice and other procedures. But we can come back with more on that. Anything more on this topic? No, Ilhan. Yes.